Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. सर्वशास्त्रांधि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैक दृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवत प्रभु कलिध्वांतोदिदादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित प्रमानंत पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्य श्रीकृष्णाय नमस्तु मे मदेक बंधु मत्संगी मद्गुरु मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोस्तुते साधु साधुतादाय नतनीचोच्चताकर आनमंच गदाचिन्मां प्रेमणा हृत्कंठयो स्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Okay, let's resume. Chapter 2, The Lord in the Heart. It's 1. Shri Shukhovacha. Evam puradharanai atmayoner nashtam smritim pratyavaruddhya तुष्टात् तथा ससर्जेदम अमोघ दृष्टिर यथाप्य याद प्राग व्यवसाय बुद्धि ही. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, formerly, prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virat Rupa, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus, he was able to rebuild the creation as it was before. Swami. द्वितीये तु ततस्थूल धारणातो जितं मनः सर्वसाक्षिणि सर्वेशे विष्णौ धार्यं नितीर्यते. In the second chapter, it is described that one should engage in dharana. One should engage in focused concentration upon the Supreme Lord of all, Lord Vishnu, who is the witness to all. Before that, it was mentioned that the mind becomes conquered by engaging in this kind of gross dharana, this dharana on the universal form of the Lord. Drishyalambana rupaivam. Why this is? Drishyalambana rupaivam ukta vairaja dharana. This dharana of this meditation on universal form is dependent on the perceived universe. It is by taking shelter of the perceived universe. Ihochete tu tat sadhya sarvantari yami dharana. In this chapter, so that was mentioned previously in the previous chapter. In this chapter, the goal of that dharana is to bring one to the point of engaging in dharana on the inner controller of everyone, on the super soul, Lord Narayana, situated in the hearts of everyone. Tatra tavat purvakta dharanaya avantar bhalamaha. So by engaging in the previously described system of dharana, the side benefit that is attained is mentioned in the current verse. This is about an incident. Lord Brahma, he had regained his lost consciousness. At the time of dissolution. Atas taya dharanaya vishwasrishti samarthyam bhavati. So by engaging in the dharana taught in the previous chapter, one becomes capable of creating the entire universe. Okay, this Chaitanya Matamanjusha, this very interesting gloss, very brief commentary. We did not come across this in the first canto. First canto, they did not add this. But it is a very interesting commentary. It is written by Srinath Chakravarti, the spiritual master of Srila Kavikarnapur Goswami. And the entire commentary is just focused on proving specific things, specific points. Aradhyo Bhagavan Rajesha Tanayaha. That's the first point. Tadhama Vrindavanam. That is the second point. Ramya Kachid Upasana Tad Vadhu Vargena Yakalpita. That is the third point. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. That is the fourth point. Prema Umartho Mahan. That is the fifth point. This only to prove this, he wrote this commentary. It's a very interesting commentary. I don't know whether I should take it up whenever it comes, because sometimes it is added, sometimes it is not added. Anyway, he points out that here he appeased the Lord. Brahma appeased the Lord means he appeased Lord Sri Krishna. And this dharana was dharana in the form of devotion service to Lord Sri Krishna. द्वितीये चिद घनवपुर धारणा सिद्धयोगिनः देहं जिहासो सायुज्य प्राप्ता उक्तम श्रुतिद्वयम्. In the second chapter, it was mentioned that meditation on the purely spiritual form of the Lord, which is intense concentrated knowledge, for the perfect yogis, for the perfect yogi, at the time of giving up the body and then attaining Sayujya. This was mentioned. Two pathways were mentioned. How two pathways? It's not clear to me. Sruti-dvayam. Bhagavad Tattva-miharopya drisha prakrit vastushu dharano ta tat sadhya Bhagavad dharana uchyate. The dharana that was brought out in the previous chapter was by superimposing the principle of the Supreme Personality of Godhead on material subjects. The goal of that is Bhagavad Dharana, meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is now being presented. Vyavasaya Buddhihi. Lord Brahma, he used his intelligence and ascertained what should be done. Specifically, he used his intelligence and ascertained that he should create the universe. This was by the force of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's prerana. The Lord impelled him to do this. The example cited herein of Sri Brahmaji is forgetfulness. Brahmaji is the incarnation of one of the mundane attributes of the Lord. Being the incarnation of the passion mode of material nature, he is empowered by the Lord to generate the beautiful material manifestation. Yet due to his being one of the numerous living entities, he is apt to forget the art of his creative energy. This forgetfulness of the living being, beginning from Brahma down to the lowest insignificant ant, is a tendency which can be counteracted by meditation on the Virat Rupa of the Lord. This chance is available in the human form of life, and if a human being follows the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam and begins to meditate upon the Virat Rupa, then revival of his pure consciousness and contraction of the tendency to forget his eternal relationship with the Lord can follow simultaneously. And as soon as this forgetfulness is removed, the Vyavasaya Buddhi, as mentioned here and in the Bhagavad Gita 2.41, follows at once. This ascertained knowledge of the living being leads to loving service to the Lord, which the living being requires. The kingdom of God is unlimited. Therefore, the number of the assisting hands of the Lord is also unlimited. The Bhagavad Gita 13.14 asserts that the Lord has his hands, legs, eyes, and mouths in every nook and corner of his creation. This means that the expansions of differentiated parts and parcels called jivas or living entities are assisting hands of the Lord. And all of them are meant for rendering a particular pattern of service to the Lord. The conditioned soul, even in the position of a Brahma, forgets this by the influence of the illusory material energy generated out of false egoism. One can counteract such false egoism by invoking God consciousness. Liberation means getting out of the slumber of forgetfulness and becoming situated in the real loving service of the Lord, as exemplified in the case of Brahma. The service of Brahma is a sample of service in liberation, distinguished from the so-called altruistic services full of mistakes and forgetfulness. Liberation is never inaction, but service without human mistakes. Madhvacharya also uses the expression mukta or liberated to refer to those who have begun to realize that they are actually servants of Lord Vishnu spiritually. Next to Shabdasya hi Brahmana Esha Pantha Yannam Apir Jayate Dhira Parthai Paribhramastaptrana Vindatirthan Maya Maye Vasanaya Shayana. The way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like the heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly, illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places. Brahmanda is quoted by Madhvacharya. Lord Vishnu is called Sarvanama. Everything is his name. So in Madhvacharya's explanation, Shabdasya hi Brahmana Esha Pantha means that Lord Hari himself is the pathway of Shabda Brahma. In other words, Lord Vishnu, everything is his name. So one should not remember anything other than Lord Vishnu. If one has to remember anything else, that is only to the extent it is required. Anyatha swatmaha smritaha. Otherwise, he is considered to be engaging in suicide. It's Brahmanda Purana. In other words, because the Supreme Lord is the super soul of everything, he is the inner controller, sustainer, and so on. So everything that is taught in the Vedas to a fully self-realized soul is all about serving Lord Vishnu. But the unintelligent, we don't perceive that. Upasana phaladapi viraktasya shuddhatma dharanayam adhikaraha. When one is detached even from the benefits attained by such meditation, then he becomes eligible to engage in dharana, fixed meditation on the pure self. Atah vairagyartham sarvam karma phalam nindati. And therefore, in order to bring about such detachment and renunciation, all kinds of karma phala, all kinds of material benefits that can be attained through mundane pious activities are being criticized here by Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Yeshapantha indicates that it is Shabda Brahma that reveals the methods by which the material benefits of pious activities. It reveals how they can be attained. Now, what is that? This is simply, it simply makes a sadhaka meditate upon and desire all kinds of meaningless uh, goals like swarga, parthatvamevaha. They had all these different names like swarga and so on. Parthatvamevaha. Tatra mayamaye pati sukhamiti vasanaya shayana swapnan pashyaniva paribhramana arthanna vindati. So they hover in dreams uh, in this pathway of delusion, thinking that this is happiness. Tattalokam praptopi niravadyam sukham na labhate ityarthaha. Even after attaining those um, planetary systems, those goals, those worlds, one does not attain spotless happiness. This is the meaning. Chaitanya Matamandrisha says, Tasmashi Krishneva Bhajaniya. Therefore, one should only engage, and therefore one should engage in devotion service to Lord Shri Krishna alone. Oh, such a beautiful explanation. Shabdasya Brahmano Panthaha. This is the pathway of Shabda Brahma, Veda, Tatraha. नामभिः श्रीकृष्ण वासुदेव नारायणादिभिर्नामभिर् धीर धारणाशील पुरुषः ध्यायति चिन्तयति इति धी. One's intelligence should, an intelligent person who's engaged in dharana should concentrate upon that the names of Sri Krishna, Vasudeva, Narayana, and so on. ईदृशैः अपकृष्टार्थाः पुरुषार्थाः धर्माः कामादयः येभ्यः तथा तैः. Who is superior to this pathway is superior to all of the purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. How come he is superior to all of this? How come this pathway? That is noted in the second half of this verse. This world is a world of spiritual disease. As if the person is, it is as if the person is sleeping. Therefore, he does not attain prema bhakti, the goal of bhakti yoga. अत्र म्रियमाणः किं कुर्वीत इति प्रश्ने स्वर्गसाधनं यागादिकं कर्म इव कुर्वीत अत्र वेदः सर्व एव प्रमाणम् इति आचिख्यासु तत्र कांश्चन प्रत्याह. There was this question, what should a person who is about to die do? In the response to that question, there were some who wanted to tell one should engage in the pious activities of karma by engaging in specific fire sacrifices and so on, which lead one to Swarga. And for that, the entire Veda is the body of evidence. So Shukadeva Goswami has these persons who promote this in mind, and he speaks the current verse for them. This is the pathway of the Shabda Brahma. The intelligence of the sadhaka is simply meditating upon various features of this world in different names, such as Swarga. Swarge sukhameva prapsyami iti vicharayati. Vritaiva. Uselessly, it meditates upon, it contemplates that I will certainly become happy in Swarga. This is useless. Yataha, because yatopi arthaihi, because one is simply in a state of delusion. It is like a person who sees different things in a dream. Tatal lokam praptopi kshaishnutva niravadyam sukham na labhate iti artha. Even after attaining those specific worlds, because all these worlds are subject to, all these worlds are perishable by nature. All of them perish by nature. Therefore, one does not attain spotless happiness. They do not relish any tangible happiness, as Prabhupada says here. The conditioned soul is always engaged in laying out plans for happiness within the material world, even up to the end of the universal limit. He's not even satisfied with available amenities on this planet Earth, where he has exploited the resources of nature to the best of his ability. He wants to go to the moon or the planet Venus to exploit resources there. But the Lord has warned us in the Bhagavad Gita 8.16 about the worthlessness of all the innumerable planets of this universe, as well as those planets within other systems. There are innumerable universes and also innumerable planets in each of them. But none of them is immune to the chief miseries of material existence, namely the pangs of birth, the pangs of death, the pangs of old age, and the pangs of disease. The Lord says that even the topmost planet known as Brahmaloka or Satyaloka, and what to speak of other planets like the heavenly planets, is not a happy land for residential purposes due to the presence of material pangs, as above mentioned. Conditioned souls are strictly under the laws of fruitive activities, and as such, they sometimes go up to Brahmaloka, and again come down to Patala Loka, as if they were unintelligent children on a merry-go-round. The real happiness is in the kingdom of God, where no one has to undergo the pangs of material existence. Therefore, the Vedic ways of fruitive activities for the living entities are misleading. One thinks of a superior way of life in this country or that, or on this planet or another. But nowhere in the material world can he fulfill his real desire of life, namely eternal life, full of intelligence and complete bliss. Indirectly, Sri Sukadeva Goswami affirms that Maharaj Parikshit, in the last stage of life, should not decide to transfer himself to the so-called heavenly planets, but should prepare himself for going back home, back to God. None of the material planets, nor the amenities available there or living conditions is everlasting. Therefore, one must have a factual reluctance to enjoy such temporary happiness as they afford. Achyutanam Prabhu.
So, in previous purport, it was recommended that Srila Prabhupada is writing that devotee should meditate on Virat Roop to counteract the tendency of forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Lord. So that means we should also meditate on Virat Roop. If yes, how?
That process of meditation we already saw. But the vast majority of us, we are not able to execute the various items of Ashtanga Yoga. So, but the basic point that everything that we contemplate upon in this world should be uh, contemplated with reference to different parts of the body of the Lord or the Supreme Lord in various ways. Like, for instance, in Bhagavad Gita also we have Rasoham Apsagonteya, Prabhasmi Shashi Surya Yoho. This is all meant for meditation. This is all meant for remembrance, cultivating our remembrance so that we remember that Krishna is the cause of the taste of water. Krishna is the cause of the splendor of the sun and the moon, and so on. This is important. Generally, we forget all these things. When we are studying the scriptures, at the time we are studying the scriptures, we remember. But at other times, we don't actually remember. So this is another thing that we can endeavor for. We can try to remember. All of this will have its spiritual benefit. Text 3. Atah kavir namasu yavadartha syada pramatto vyavasthihi siddhenyatharthena yateta tatra parishramam tatra samikshaman. For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. तर्हि सर्वथा कर्मफलत्यागे सद्य एव देहपातः स्यात् इत्याशङ्क्याः. If one has to abandon all the benefits of pious activities in every manner, then immediately the body will fall down dead. Because the result of dharma is artha and kama. So to not desire the benefits of dharma, pious activities, means to not desire artha and kama. Artha refers to various items that constitute success in this material world, wealth, prosperity, and so on. And that is required in order to provide kama. Kama refers not just to sexual activity, but it refers to keeping the senses and sense objects together. Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out in Bhakti-vaibhava under Atyahara that the Atyahara refers to overconsumption, overeating. Eating not just in terms of food, because in the previous verse he already stated that one should control the urge of the stomach, the urge of the tongue and the urge of stomach. So what is the meaning of Atyahara then? Because Rupa Goswami is not going to write something redundantly. If he's going to summarize the entire practice of Krishna Bhakti in 11 verses, naturally he would have thought about every word that he's writing. So he would not unnecessarily repeat something. Punarukti dosha, or the defect of redundancy, would not be found in his writings. So then, what is the meaning of Atyahara? What is this ahara? Eating or consumption? Then he says, the sense objects are food for the senses. So too much of contact of the senses with the sense objects is what is referred to as tyahara. One cannot do completely away with sense objects, because without sense objects, the body will die. If I don't feed my body, then my body will die, like that. Here also, the Sridhar Swami is making the same point. So anticipating such an objection, that if I were to completely, absolutely abandon all the benefits of the activities of karma, then the body will simply fall dead. The current verse is spoken. One should accept that much of artha as is required to have the body functioning. Pramatas tavan. And even when we have restricted our necessities to what is actually required for having the body functioning, still one should be detached. Still one should be detached. One should not be attached to those necessities. Vivasaya buddhi, nedam sukhamiti nishchayavan. One should assert and very clearly, this is not happiness. We should perceive that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. Chaitanya Matamanjusha. Tasmat yoginam nrupanirnitam hare namanu kirtanam. Iti purvoktaritya, stated in 2.1.11, Prathamam Shri Krishna Namabhyam Saeva Karya Ityaha. So one should take shelter of the holy names of Shri Krishna. Atah Karana, therefore, Kavir, Vichakshana, an intelligent person, Janaha, Namasu, Bhagavan Namasu, Yavadarthasya, Yavad Sakalye, Sarvarthasya. One should take shelter of the holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in such a manner that he attains his goal entirely. Nama grahanena eva sarvartha siddho bhavati. Because simply by chanting the holy names, one attains all of his necessities. This necessity, of course, refers to prema bhakti. Yadva yavanartha yatreti saptamyanya padarthaha अर्थस्फूर्ति पर्यंतम नामसु भवेत् इत्यर्थः अर्थस्तु श्री कृष्ण एव तावदेव नामसु भाव्यम यावदर्थ फलम इति वा. So one should chant the holy name in such a manner that Sri Krishna, the object of this practice, reveals himself. And one should not be inattentive, and one should be fixed in his intelligence. One should not engage in the activities of karma. Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovida. This was noted in 1.5 on 18. Because everything else simply leads to hard labor for nothing. Etena vyavasaya san. So when one has actually ascertained this, Bhagavan Nama Sankirtanam Kuryat. One should engage in Nama Sankirtana of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the meaning. Evam yoga prasanga eva karmanam matam ati bahirangatvena spashtameva vininda कर्म फलेषु वैराग्यम भक्त ज्ञानिनोरपि साधारणं योगारूढानाम अवश्य कर्तव्यत्वेनाह. In while discussing the topic of yoga, the opinion of the karmis is very clear. It is very clear that the opinion of the karmis is extremely extraneous to one's actual well-being. So the criticism of the benefits of karma renunciation and detachment are common to the bhaktas and the jnanis. That renunciation and detachment should be accepted as a mandatory principle for those who are advanced in the yoga system. Ataha buddhiman bhogartham na dhyaye. Therefore, the intelligent person should not contemplate on plans for sense enjoyment. Plans for sense enjoyment means plans for sense enjoyment even within dharma, even within the pathway of karma. So, anyabhilashita is rejected, or sinful activities, adharma is already rejected. But even sinless sense enjoyment should not be contemplated upon by the intelligent, advanced practitioner of the yoga system. Yateta cha. And one should not endeavor in that direction. Kintu kamasya nendriya pritar labho jiveta yavata iti uktanyaya. On the logic of kama is not, or satisfaction of one's bodily needs is not for satisfaction of the senses. Rather, it is just for survival. This was noted in 1.2.10. So on that logic, we should not endeavor in that direction. Namasu, bhongya vastushu, yavata arthena svikritena arthaha, svikritya nishpatyartham, dekhanirvahas tavan arthaha grahyaha, yasya tatha bhutasya. So one should just accept that much of enjoyable objects as is required for his body to function. Yataha ayam apramataha swasadhana siddhau savadhanaha. He should be very attentive to ensure that he attains the perfection of his sadhana, his endeavor. Kimcha, moreover, Vikna Vahulya Darshanepi Swa Yoga Na Paravartata. Even though he sees several obstacles, he should not go away from his practice of yoga. Vyavasaya buddhi. Yad bhave tad bhavato. Let whatever happen, happen. Maya tu yan nishchitam tan nishchitam. What I have ascertained is what I have ascertained. Iti dhrida vichara iti yartaha. So one should be very firmly, one's deliberation should be firm. This is the meaning. किंच यावत् तथा अपि कस्यचित् इति सुकुमारस्य इव उक्ता न तु स्वतः समर्थस्य इत्याह. Even acceptance of what is required, that is for a person who is uh, a tender new beginner, not for a person who is himself capable. अन्यथा प्रकारांतरेण अर्थे स्वदेह निर्वाहे सिद्धे सति, if one can satisfy, if one can maintain one's body through some other means, tatra pishtapeshana nyayena nayateta. So one should not go through the pathway of karma. It is simply useless. Tatastatra yatre parishramam dhanika jana upasana adikam. It is simply unnecessary labor. One will have to worship uh, wealthy men and so on. This is all useless labor. These points will be developed by Shukadev Goswami. Right now it's coming. Bhagavata Dharma or the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam is perfectly distinct from the way of fruitive activities, which are considered by the devotees to be merely a waste of time. So those who are fixed in the process of Krishna Bhakti as taught in Upadeshamrita, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, summarized in the Nectar of Devotion, those who are fixed in this, for them, the duties common to the various varnas, ashramas, varna dharma, ashrama dharma, stri dharma, all of this they consider to be a waste of time. Because this offers a very organized way of living so that your material necessities are well taken care of. But those who are fixed up in Krishna consciousness, they are not interested in that at all. So they consider this a waste of time. Of course, they will not entertain engagement in adharma, but they think that trying to fulfill the six urges, whether in a pious manner or in an impious manner, is simply a waste of time. The whole universe, or for that matter, all material existence is moving on as Jagat, simply for planning business to make one's position very comfortable or secure, although everyone sees that this existence is neither comfortable nor secure and can never become comfortable or secure at any stage of development. Those who are captivated by the illusory advancement of material civilization, following the way of phantasmagoria, are certainly madmen. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but the bewildering creation of matter like earth, water, and fire. The buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, or even the highest perfection of material science, namely atomic energy and electronics, are all simply bewildering names of material elements with their concomitant reactions of the three modes. Since the devotee of the Lord knows them perfectly well, he is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significance than the babble of sea waves. The great kings, leaders, and soldiers fight with one another in order to perpetuate their names in history. They are forgotten in due course of time and they make a place for another era in history. But the devotee realizes how much history and historical persons are useless products of flickering time. The fruity worker aspires after a big fortune in the matter of wealth, woman, and worldly adoration. But those who are fixed in perfect reality are not at all interested in such false things. For them, it is all a waste of time. So, for the jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas, this is simply
Hare Krishna.
Okay, where did I stop? I don't know where it cut out.
You're reading the purport, Prabhuji. Babble of sea waves after that, next paragraph.
The great kings. Did I read that portion?
Yes, Prabhu, up to this last line. The fruity
What?
worker has the big fortune. This last line, as far as I
For,
remember.
okay, for them it is all a waste of time. So this is with reference to those who are jnanis, yogis, or bhaktas. That means, of course, the process of jnana includes uh, yoga and bhakti. The process of yoga includes bhakti. And here we are talking of bhaktas who are exclusively engaged in bhakti, not the contaminated bhaktas, not bhakti which is mixed slightly or primarily with karma, not slightly or primarily mixed with jnana, not slightly or primarily mixed with yoga. So for all of these persons, this is simply a waste of time. Since every second of human life is important, an enlightened man should be very careful to utilize time very cautiously. 1 second of human life wasted in the vain research of planning for happiness in the material world can never be replaced, even if one spends millions of coins of gold. This is all for those of us who are practicing Krishna consciousness. For us, the Bhagavatam teaches this, and Prabhupada is amplifying it. Therefore, the transcendentalist desiring freedom from the clutches of Maya or the illusory activities of life is warned herewith not to be captivated by the external features of fruitive actors. Human life is never meant for sense gratification, but for self-realization. Srimad Bhagavatam instructs us solely on this subject from the very beginning to the end. Human life is simply meant for self-realization. The civilization which aims at this utmost perfection never indulges in creating unwanted things. In such a perfect civilization prepares man only to accept the bare necessities of life or to follow the principle of the best use of a bad bargain. Notice this, bad bargain, not a good bargain. It's a bad bargain. Our material bodies and our lives in that connection are bad bargains because the living entity is actually spirit, and spiritual advancement of the living entity is absolutely necessary. Human life is intended for the realization of this important factor, and one should act accordingly, accepting only the bare necessities of life and depending more on God's gifts without diversion of human energy for any other purpose, such as being mad for material enjoyment. Nunam pramattah kurute vikarma. Pramattah. Mad for material enjoyment means no consideration of whether it is pious or impious. The materialistic advancement of civilization is called the civilization of the demons, which ultimately ends in wars and scarcity. The transcendentalist is specifically warned here with to be fixed in mind so that even if there is difficulty in plain living and high thinking, he will not budge even an inch from his stark determination. For a transcendentalist, it is a suicidal policy to be intimately in touch with the sense gratifiers of the world, because such a policy will frustrate the ultimate gain of life. Shukadeva Goswami met Maharaj Parikshit when the latter felt a necessity for such a meeting. It is the duty of a transcendentalist to help persons who desire real salvation and to support the cause of salvation. One might note that Shukadeva Goswami never met Maharaj Parikshit when he was ruling as a great king. For a transcendentalist, the mode of activities is explained in the next shloka. Oh, 1 minute. Satyam Shitau Kim Kashipoh Prayasai Bahau Swasiddhe Hyupabharhanai Kim Satyanjalau Kim Purudhanna Patya Digvalkaladau Satikim Dukulai. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Anyatha siddhi mein aha dvabhyam satyamiti. Then in two verses, beginning with text 4, um, Sukadeva Goswami points out other ways, simple ways by which one can uh, attain the bare necessities of life. Other ways means ways other than having to go through the complicated pathway of uh, organized material life, whether sinful organized material life or sinless organized material life. Sinless organized material life is nothing but the system of following Samanya Dharma, Varna Dharma, Ashma Dharma, Sri Dharma, and so on. Samarthasya anyatha siddhim aha satyami. For one who is capable, this way of working out one's necessities through other means is brought out. The necessities of life for the protection and comfort of the body must not be unnecessarily increased. Human energy is spoiled in a vain search after such illusory happiness. If one is able to lie down on the floor, then why should one endeavor to get a good bedstead or soft cushion to lie on? If one can rest without any pillow or make use of the soft arms endowed by nature, there is no necessity of searching after a pillow. If we make a study of the general life of the animals, we can see that they have no intelligence for building big houses, furniture, and other household paraphernalia, and yet they maintain a healthy life. By lying down on the open land, they do not know how to cook or prepare foodstuff, yet they still live healthy lives more easily than the human being. This does not mean that human civilization should revert to animal life or that the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education, and sense of morality. An intelligent human cannot live the life of an animal. Rather, man should try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry and philosophy. In such a way, he can further the progressive march of human civilization. But here, the idea given by Srila Shukadeva Goswami is that the reserve energy of human life, which is far superior to that of animals, should simply be utilized for self-realization. Advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing our lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than the human. One must realize the nullness of the material phenomena. One must realize that material events ultimately are null. They don't lead to any tangible accomplishment in reality. Considering them a passing phantasmagoria and must endeavor to make a solution to the miseries of life. In this life, we endeavor to attain so many things, but in the next life, and 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 so on, these things will have no meaning. The only thing that has been achieved is we became materially attached to so many different types of experiences, and we want subconsciously to re-experience such experiences, at least the ones that we felt were favorable, through different identities, because our identity will be different life after life. And this is going to go on endlessly unless we get out of material existence. Self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization geared to sense gratification is delusion, and such a quote-unquote civilization is not worthy of the name. In pursuit of such false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya or illusion. Great sages and saints in the days of yore were not living in palatial buildings furnished with good furniture and so-called amenities of life. They used to live in huts and groves and sit on the flat ground, and yet they have left immense treasures of high knowledge with all perfection. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami were high-ranking ministers of state, but they were able to leave behind them immense writings on transcendental knowledge while living under a succession of trees, residing for only one night underneath each tree. They did not live even 2 nights under the same tree, and what to speak of living in well-furnished rooms with modern amenities. And still, they were able to give us most important literatures of self-realization. The so-called comforts of life are not actually helpful for progressive civilization. Rather, they are detrimental to such progressive life. In the system of Sanatana Dharma, four divisions of social life and four orders of progressive realization, there are ample opportunities and sufficient directions for a happy termination of the progressive life. And the sincere followers are advised therein to accept a voluntary life of renunciation in order to achieve the desired goal of life. If one is not accustomed to abiding by the life of renunciation and self-abnegation means self-denial from the beginning, one should try to get into the habit at a later stage of life. Self-denial. When Prabhupada was asked, how can you talk about something like this? Then he said, if you are sick, the doctor will tell you, you cannot take things which you like. So we are all sick. We are filled with lust, anger, greed. We are filled with the six urges. These are all symptoms of the disease of material existence itself. Therefore, self-abnegation is important. One should try to get into the habit at a later stage of life, as recommended by Srila Shukadeva Goswami, and that will help one to achieve the desired success. 5. This text 4 and 5, that sort of life that is brought out here, those who are capable were actually executing it. The leaders of Lord Chaitanya's mission were like this. They were actually executing Krishna consciousness of this standard. Text 5. Chirani kim patina santi dishanti bhiksham naivang hripah parabhritah saritopya shushyan ruddha guha kimachito vati nopasannan kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhanadurbadan dhan. Are there no torn cloths lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or, above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hardened will? Nanu, diksat bhavanama nagnatmameva. To be covered by the directions means to be naked. Valkalam annam toyam vasasthanam to yatnya prayatnam vina katham prapyata. How can one attain clothing, food, water, a place of residence without begging? Tatraha. Uh, with that in mind, he speaks the current verse. Nanu shitatranopaayakah. Tatra sakshepam krudhyam nivaha. Then what is the means to protect oneself from cold? Anticipating such a question, Shukadeva Goswami angrily objects to such a consideration with the current verse. Manushya khalu ma dadatu. Now, okay, human beings may not give you bhiksha, but do the trees no longer give alms in charity? Tarhi panartham jalam tu mrigyameva iti chet. But to drink water, should I not search for it? Anticipating this question, Shukadeva Goswami conveys dhiktava buddhi. Your intelligence is useless. He says, Saritopya Shushan, have the rivers dried up? Nanu Shilavarsha Tranartham Parnashala Kachid Apekshitavya Eva iti chet. So, in order that I should protect myself from a rain of stones and so on, should I not have at least a cottage? Is that not even required? Then he says, Ruddha Guha Kim? Are the caves now closed. Guham pravishya vyaghradya khadanti che. And what if tigers and others enter into the cave and uh, eat me up? Anticipating that, he says, Kim achitaha avati na upasannan. Doesn't the Almighty Lord give protection to the surrendered souls? Vyaghradinam api issa eva antaryami bhaktavatsalaha tan katham tatra prerayishyati iti bhava. He is the indwelling super soul of the tigers and other such creatures. And the Supreme Lord is a Bhaktavatsala. It's most affectionate to his devotees. So why will he send those creatures there? That is the implication. The renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. According to the dictionary, a parasite is a sycophant who lives at the cost of society without making any contribution to that society. The renounced order is meant for contributing something substantial to society and not depending on the earnings of the householders. On the contrary, acceptance of alms from the householders by the bona fide mendicant is an opportunity afforded by the saint for the tangible benefit of the donor. In the Sanatana Dharma institution, alms giving to the mendicant is part of a householder's duty. And it is advised in the scriptures that the householder should treat the mendicants as their family children and should provide them with food, clothing, etc. without being asked. Pseudo mendicants, therefore, should not take advantage of the charitable disposition of the faithful householders. The first duty of a person in the renounced order of life is to contribute some literary work for the benefit of the human being in order to give him realized direction toward self-realization. Among the other duties in the renounced order of life of Srila Sanatana, Srila Rupa, and the other Goswamis of Vrindavan, the foremost duty discharged by them was to hold learned discourses amongst themselves at Seva Kunj, Vrindavan, the spot where Sri Radha Damodar temple was established by Srila Jiva Goswami, and where the actual Samadhi tombs of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami are laid. For the benefit of all in human society, they left behind them immense literatures of transcendental importance. Similarly, all the acharyas who voluntarily accepted the renounced order of life aimed at benefiting human society and not at living a comfortable or irresponsible life at the cost of others. However, those who cannot give any contribution should not go to the householders for food, for such mendicants asking bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order. Shukadeva Goswami gave this warning, especially for those mendicants who adopt this line of profession to solve their economic problems. Such mendicants are in abundance in the age of Kali. When a man becomes a mendicant, willfully or by circumstances, he must be of firm faith and conviction that the Supreme Lord is the maintainer of all living beings everywhere in the universe. Why then would he neglect the maintenance of a surrendered soul who is 10% engaged in the service of the Lord? A common master looks to the necessities of his servant. So how a dharmic master looks to the necessities of his dharmic servant. So how much more would the all-powerful, all-opulent Supreme Lord look after the necessities of life for a fully surrendered soul? The general rule is that a mendicant devotee will accept a simple, small loincloth without asking anyone to give it in charity. He simply salvages it from the rejected torn cloth thrown in the street. When he's hungry, he may go to a magnanimous tree which drops fruits, and when he's thirsty, he may drink water from the flowing river. He does not require to live in a comfortable house, but should find a cave in the hills and not be afraid of jungle animals, keeping faith in God who lives in everyone's heart. The Lord may dictate to tigers and the other jungle animals not to disturb his devotee. Haridas Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Sri Chaitanya, used to live in such a cave, and by chance a great venomous snake was a co-partner of the cave. Some admirer of Thakur Haridas, who had to visit the Thakur every day, feared the snake and suggested that the Thakur leave that place. Because his devotees were afraid of the snake, and they were regularly visiting the cave, Thakur Haridas agreed to the proposal on their account. But as soon as this was settled, the snake actually crawled out of its hole in the cave and left the cave for good before everyone present. By the dictation of the Lord, who lived also within the heart of the snake gave preference to Haridas and decided to leave the place and not disturb it. So this is a tangible example of how the Lord gives protection to a bona fide devotee like Thakur Haridas. According to the regulations of the Sanatana Dharma institution, one is trained from the beginning to depend fully on the protection of the Lord in all circumstances. The path of renunciation is recommended for acceptance by one who is fully accomplished and fully purified in his existence. This stage is also described. This stage is described also in the Bhagavad Gita 16.5 as Daivi Sampat, spiritual assets. A human being is required to accumulate Daivi Sampat or spiritual assets. Otherwise, the next alternative, Asuri Sampat or material assets, demoniac assets, will overcome him disproportionately. And thus one will be forced into the entanglement of different miseries of the material world. A sannyasi should always live alone, without company, and he must be fearless, abhayam. He should never be afraid of living alone, although he is never alone. The Lord is residing in everyone's heart, and unless one is purified by the prescribed process, one will feel that he is alone. Tattva samshuddhi. But a man in the renounced order of life must be purified by the process. Thus, he will feel the presence of the Lord everywhere and will have nothing to fear, such as being without any company. Everyone can become a fearless and honest person if his very existence is purified by discharging the prescribed duty for each and every order of life. So the idea is that if one carefully follows the common duties and the duties specific to his varna and ashrama, or for women, he follows her common duties and follows Sri Dharma, and all of them avoid adharma, then they will be able to come to this point. Avayam Sattva Samshuddhi, Jnana Yoga Yavasthiti, and so on. One can become fixed in one's prescribed duty by faithful oral reception of Vedic instructions and assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotion service to the Lord. How can one become fixed in one's prescribed duty? By faithfully, submissively hearing the Vedic instructions that teach one how to make progress, and by assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotional service to the Lord. This is actually, we will find it in 7th canto, towards the end. We will come across this. This is the method. Text 6. Evam swachitte swateva siddha atma priyortho bhagavan ananta tam nirvrito niyatartho bhajeta samsara hetu ramascha yatra. Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency. Because he is the almighty personality of God, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshipping him, one can end the cause of the conditioned state of existence. Tada. Then kim kartavyam, then what should he do? Harihi tu sevyaha. He should serve Lord Hari. Ityaha. With that in mind, he speaks the current verse. Bhajaniyatve hetavaha. Why should one serve the Supreme Lord? The reasons are set out in this verse. Swachitte swateva siddha. Yataha atma. Ateva priya. He is the very self of all the selves. Therefore, he is dear. Yasacha seva sukharupa eva. And to serve someone who is dear to you is simply filled with happiness. It is simply a type of happiness. Arthaha satyaha. Natu anatmatvan mithya. And this Supreme Lord, he is a factual substance. He is not mithya. He is not false. He is not material. Bhagavan is also filled with the 6 opulences. Bhajaniya gunaha, which indicates that his services are worthy of being served. He has qualities which make him worthy of being served. Anantascha nityaha, and he is eternal. Ya evam bhutastam bhajeta. A person like him, he should be served. A person who has such a nature should be served. One should serve him. Niyatarthaha, nishchita swarupaha. Tad anubhavanandena nivritah sanniti swatah sukhatmatvam darshitam. So once one has ascertained the true nature of the Lord, then you should engage in this service and experience the bliss of such a service. Moreover, yatra yasmin bhajane sati, when such bhajana kriya is executed, samsara hetu avidyaya paramo nasho bhavati, then there is destruction of material existence, which means there is destruction of avidya. Vairagyasya cha phalam harivajanam eva iti darshayati. The result of such renunciation is nothing but devotion service unto Lord Hari. This is stated in two verses, beginning with the current verse. Evam tatra tatra bhagavati eva tatparya sati. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself is the goal. Sri Bhagavan eva parama purushartha taya sevyaha. Sri Bhagavan Himself to be served as the supreme goal of life. Why so much of enthusiasm? That is stated, the reasons are stated here. Tasmad bharata sarvatma ityadina yaduktam tadeva punarniyate iti bhava. It is implied here that what was stated earlier, Tasmad bharata sarvatma, Bhagavan satadampati, sotavya, kirtitavyascha, dhyaya, pujasyya, nityada. That is again asserted here. शब्देन आनुषंगिकम एवं विद्या निवृत्ति फलम इति बोधितम. Here the word cha, samsara hetu paramascha yatra. There the word cha can also mean also. The idea is that one should worship the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate. He is the supreme gain, and also he is the, and such engagement is what will bring about the cessation of the conditioned state of existence. So that also indicates that this is a side benefit. Getting rid of avidya is a side benefit. If the Supreme Lord is the object of service, then should one not search out for the ingredients with which one executes devotion service to Him? Shouldn't the yogis do that? Anticipating such a question, he speaks this verse. Chitta adhisthata vasudeva iti napyavahanadishrama iti bhava. That Supreme Lord is Vasudeva. He is the predominating deity of the Chitta. Chitta is a part of the subtle body. And he is perfectly established in the heart itself. So one does not need to take the trouble to go and invite him. And service to him should be intuitive. Because there are four adjectives that describe different features of the Supreme Lord, because of which it should be very intuitive to serve him. Priyaha. Swabhavata eva premaspadam. The Supreme Lord is naturally the object of love. Nacha premaspadatvepi patiputradi rupaha anarthaha. And even though he is the object of love, he is not unnecessary, like a husband, like the son, and so on. Yataha arthaha. Parma vastu rupaha. Parma vastu rupatvepi na kevalam antaratmaiva. Because he is the supreme vastu. Remember, Vedyam vastavam atra vastu. Vastu. He is the supreme vastu. And even though he is like that, it is not that he is just the inner Atma, the Paramatma. Yataha Bhagavan. Because he is Bhagavan. Saundaryadi gunavat drisyaha. He can be seen, perceived as possessing beauty and other such transcendental features. Nacha tatra deshaniyama. And there is no restriction that he can be perceived only in particular places. Anantaha, because he is endless. Sarva Vyapakatvat, Sarvatraiva Deshe Sitaha. He is situated everywhere because he is all pervasive. Nacha Bhajanesh Ramaha Kopi Tyaha. And there need be no labor or difficulty to execute Bhajana Kriya for him. Nirvritaha. Because one can happily engage in devotional service. Bhajanananda Magnasan, one can be immersed in the bliss of Bhajana Kriya. Niyataha. Premaiva Bhaktau Anusamhitaha Arthaha. Certainly, it is love for him uh, that it's the goal of bhakti. Prayojanam yasya tathahutasam. This is the goal of the process of yadva. Another meaning. Nityam etavanti namani grihitavyani etavati katha shotavya etavatyaha prayatnaha no pranatayah kartavyaha etavat kalam dhyanam kartavyam ityevam niyam yuktani kirtana shravanadini yasya tathabhutasan bhajeta. One should serve him while taking up specific vows. I will chant this many holy names. I will hear about him this much. I will offer this many obeisances. I will meditate on the Supreme Lord for this much amount of time. So when one executes Kirtana, Shravana and so on, with such niyamas, such rules and regulations, then one executes devotion service. Yatra bhajane samsara heto ravidyaya uparamasya bhavet iti anusamhitam phalam bhaktamate. For the devotees, this destruction of material existence, the cause of avidya, is destroyed. So one should execute that kind of devotion service by which this benefit appears as a side benefit. Jnani yoginor matetu samsara hetu parama eva anusamhitam phalam. But for the jnanis and yogis, this destruction of the cause of material existence itself is the primary result. Chakara padapurane niyatartho nischala swarupa. And one should be unshaken. No, and the Supreme Lord himself is unshaken in his position. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.61, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna is all-pervading, omnipresent super soul. Therefore, one who is a yogi can worship only him because he is a substance and not illusion. Every living creature is engaging in the service of something else. A living being's constitutional position is to render service, but in the atmosphere of Maya or illusion, or the conditional state of existence, the conditioned soul seeks the service of illusion. The conditioned soul works in the service of his temporary body, bodily relatives like the wife and children, and the necessary paraphernalia for maintaining the body and body relations, such as the house, land, wealth, society, and country. But he does not know that all such renderings of service are totally illusory. As we have discussed many times before, this material world is itself an illusion, like a mirage in the desert. In the desert, there's an illusion of water, and the foolish animals become entrapped by such an illusion and run after water in the desert, although there is no water at all. But the lack of water in the desert should not lead one to conclude that there is no water at all. The intelligent person knows well that there is certainly water in the seas and oceans, but such vast reservoirs of water are far, far away from the desert. One should therefore search for water in the vicinity of seas and oceans and not in the desert. Every one of us is searching after real happiness in life, namely eternal life, eternal or unlimited knowledge, and unending blissful life. But foolish people who have no knowledge of the substance search after the reality of life in the illusion. This material body does not endure eternally, and everything in relation with this temporary body, such as the wife, children, society, and country, also changes along with the change of body. This is called samsara, or repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. We would like to find a solution for all these problems of life, but we do not know the way. Herein it is suggested that anyone who wants to make an end to these miseries of life, namely repetition of birth, death, disease, and old age, must take to this process of worshipping the Supreme Lord and not others, as it is also ultimately suggested in the Bhagavad Gita 18.65. If we at all want to end the cause of our conditioned life, we must take to the worship of Lord Sri Krishna, who is present in everyone's heart by his natural affection for all living beings who are actually the parts and parcels of the Lord. 18.61. The baby in the lap of his mother is naturally attached to the mother, and the mother is attached to the child. But when the child grows up and becomes overwhelmed by circumstances, he gradually becomes detached from the mother, although the mother always expects some sort of service from the grown up child and is equally affectionate toward her child, even though the child is forgetful. Similarly, because we are all part and parcel of the Lord is always affectionate to us. He always tries to get us back home, back to God. But we, the conditioned souls, do not care for him and run instead after the illusory bodily connection. We must therefore extricate ourselves from all illusory connections of the world and seek a reunion with the Lord, trying to render service unto him because he is the ultimate truth. Actually, we are hankering after him as a child seeks the mother. And to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need not go anywhere else because the Lord is within our hearts. This does not suggest that, however, that we should not go to the places of worship, namely the temples, churches, and mosques. Such holy places of worship are also occupied by the Lord because the Lord is omnipresent. For the common man, these holy places are centers of learning about the science of God. When the temples are devoid of activities, the people in general become uninterested in such places, and consequently, the mass of people gradually become godless. And a godless civilization is a result. Such a hellish civilization artificially increases the conditions of life, and existence becomes intolerable for everyone. The foolish leaders of a godless civilization try to devise various plans to bring about peace and prosperity in the godless world under a patent trademark of materialism. And because such attempts are illusory only, the people elect incompetent blind leaders one after another who are incapable of offering solution. If we at all want, if we want at all to end this anomaly of a godless civilization, we must follow the principles of revealed scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam and follow the instruction of a person like Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who has no attraction for material gain. Okay, I'll stop with that. Good. Achyutanam Prabhu has a question.
Bro, after reading this, it looks like I could not take in everything, and I have to read it again. And still, that may not be sufficient.
Yeah, second canto is like that. It requires a lot of thinking. We'll understand over time.
So,
Okay.
yes, bro.
Vanshakal Patra Vyashya Kripasan Vishya Vaišnavibhyo Namo Namaha.